Good evening and welcome back to our weekly question and answer series for Anash.org. Question: what's the bracha on a drink mix that's a third grape juice? It's cranberry and apple juice, and a third is grape juice. The Alter Rebbe writes in Shulchan Aruch Simon Reish Dalet, Siv Ches, wine that you mix in honey, spices, although it doesn't have this taste of wine, nishtana tamoi, it changed the taste from regular wine, it's still a boire priya gufen. And Alter Rebbe's Mamshech continues, but wine which you mix together other mashkin, if you mixed that much that it loses the taste of wine, you don't make a boire priya gufen, ele shahakl. But if you mixed it with beer, which does not change the taste of wine, you go by Rav. What is the majority? If the majority is wine, you make boire priya gufen. If the majority is beer, you make a shakl. So over here we see that we have to go, when you mix wine with other juices or other liquids, you go by Rav. If the majority is wine and has the taste of wine, then there is a bracha, a boire priya gufen. If the majority is not wine, it loses the bracha. So this drink, since wine is only a third and the majority is other liquid, other juices like cranberry and apple, you do not make a boire priya gufen, you make a bracha sha'akl niya b'dvorei. Question: In a shul I attend, they have a goy plug in a hot plate and put food on to warm on Shabbos day. Is that allowed? No, it's aser betachlas iser. Because first of all, when you say for a goy that he should do a malacha for you, that means he should plug in the hot plate, is the first iser. You cannot say and tell for a goy to do a malacha for you, and you have to be moiche. That's number one. Number two, even if it's cooked fully already, but it is a problem of chazorah, putting back food on a plate, on a hot plate, although it doesn't have any knobs to lower to make higher the heat, so it's at least considered like a kira, which is groof of a ketuma. That means it is covered, you cannot change the volume, the heat. So therefore, there's not a problem of shia, but at least you have a problem of chazorah. And chazorah, to put back food, even though it's cooked already, and even on a hot plate, which is halachically grufik ketuma, it is only if you have 5 conditions. First of all, it has to be grufik ketuma. That's number one. Number two, it has to be in your hands. You took it down to take out something, but basically you still hold it at hand. Number three, you have to have your mind, even when you hold it in the hand, you have to have datel achzira. You have to have a mind. It should go back on the hot plate. Number four has to be mevushel kol tzorchei. And number five, if it's a liquid, which I assume there is liquid in it, so if it gets cold, then it is a problem. It's bishul acha bishul. It's a problem of bishul. So it has to still be hot that people should be able to eat it. So if a goy goes Shabbos in the morning and takes food which does not have all this fifth nuam, so basically I assume it's not oide beyudoi, that's for sure not, although it might be mavushel kol tzarechoi, and so you have a serious problem of chazorah putting back on the hot plate. And therefore, you cannot tell for the goy that he should plug in the hot plate, and even it's plugged in before, you cannot tell him to put back food on the hot plate if it doesn't have these 5 conditions. Question. So this will also answer this second question. Is a hot plate without temperature control only has an on and off considered a blech, and we are allowed to put something back on it on Shabbos? And the answer is, as I just mentioned before, no. Although it does not have a temperature control, so it is considered grufik ktuma, but you cannot put back anything on that hot plate if it doesn't have the klula of chazura. So if it has the klula of chazura, you took it off for a minute and you hold it in the hands and it's mevushel kol tzarechoi and it's still hot, then you could put it back. But if it lacks one of these conditions, it is not permitted to put back on a hot plate. Question. Are you allowed to have pictures hanging in the direction you daven Shmoneh Esrei? If yes, are you allowed to stand and daven Shmoneh Esrei in front of the picture? Now, the Alter Rebbe writes in Shulchan Aruch, Siman Tzadik, Siv Chov Beis. If you had clothing or tapestry which hangs in a shul to make it nice for prettiness, although when it comes to the halacha that you should not have anything, a chatzitza between you and the wall, which there is a halacha that you should daven by the wall, although this tapestry is not considered a chatzitza, but it's not nochen to daven, it's not allowed to daven in that direction because it will disturb your kavanah. You will look at it, the pictures, and you won't be able to have the real kavanah in davening. And if it happens that you are in a room and there is pictures, you cannot daven elsewhere, you should close your eyes. And the Alter Rebbe writes, also when you have in shul pictures which you paint, it is kedai that you should not paint any pictures of a person only above the koimas odom. That means only which is higher than the taller than the people. That means on the wall which is higher than the people are. And Alter Rebbe finishes, it's not kedai also to make pictures on svarim, on books, on sidurim, which you are davening in that, because that will also disturb your kavanah. So first of all, we see over here that you are not allowed to daven in the direction which you have pictures. That's also pictures of a person, other kind of pictures of animals, any pictures. Only if it is higher or not higher up, it's not in front of your face. Only then you are permitted to daven in that direction. Continuing this question, does it matter if it's a family picture or a picture of the Rebbe? No, it does not make any difference. And even in front of the picture of the Rebbe, you cannot daven only if the picture is above your head. Because if it's lamal mekoy mesodam, it's not a problem. But it is kedai to note, there is a lot of poskim which are machmer not to daven even when it's higher than a face of a person. Because when you bow, it is as if you bow to that picture. And this is the chidah in Shiur Bracha, Yerdai Simet Kif Mem Aleph as Gimel, which he writes, he brings it down of Rabbeini Eliukim, and also the Bes Yosef brings it down. And he says that I found afterwards in the Bes Yosef itself, in his Shuvas, Afkes Roichel, in Siman Samach Gimel, which he writes clearly that Rabbi Yerukim is correct. Although in Beis Yosef he disagrees with Rabbi Yerukim, but in a tshuva later he writes that you should not daven against any pictures of animals, of a person, because it is as if you bow to the picture. And the Chidur writes, this is also the Maram Padve agrees, and the Maru Kapsula. So we see you have poskim which say clearly you should not daven, even it's above your head. And this is also how the Chachmas Odom in Klal Pai Hai Siv Zion writes that in a shul you should be a machmer and you should not make any pictures because it looks like you bow to the picture. And it makes no difference if it doesn't make any chilik between if it's lower than a person or above the face of a person. And you could also see in Shivas, Divrei Malkir, Chelik Vov, Sima Beis As Gimel, also comes out that way. So, again, halachically, according to the Alter Rebbe, is mashma that you could daven if it's above your face. It's not right in front of you. But we have other poskim which says you should not daven. So we as Chassidim Alter Rebbe, we could rely on the Alter Rebbe, but even though it's kedai to be a machmer, like a lot of other poskim, there's a Kiva Eiger which writes very strongly against it, and other poskim, and that was the minig always, you should not have a picture in a shul on the Mizrach wall. Question. My daughter insists on wearing leggings, and this is something my other children hadn't even worn. My question is, 1, if there is a gap between the shoe and the leggings, then you could see the foot. Is this a problem? To me, leggings resemble tight pants, and she is telling me these are made for girls. Please help me sort this out. Is it a halachic issue for a woman to wear leggings? What about wearing woman pajama pants? So let's go with this. The first thing is there's several halachic issues with leggings. First, when worn without socks, leggings expose the lower section of the foot, which needs to be covered, because that's called shoik, and shoik be'ish is an erva. So it has to be covered. So if you have a gap within the feet, that's no question that you have a problem, and it's Aser Medina because shoik be'ish erva. Number 2, even if the skirt has leggings, the skirt has to cover the bottom of the knee in all positions. You cannot rely that since you have leggings, the skirt could be shorter, because the leggings covers it. And the Metzias is that once you have leggings, the length of your dress becomes shorter, and automatically it's not covered the way how halachically it should be covered. And third, even if the leggings are technically tznius, there's another issue here. They are somewhat similar to pants. And that, it goes into the category of the Isser of Losilvash Isha Kli Gever. It's a male garment. And there's an issue of a woman wearing a garment of a man. So, and this issue is even when it's covered totally with a skirt. That means if you have a long skirt all the way till the floor. But since it's pants, it is similar to pants. So it's meant for men. And pants, be'ikar, is meant for men to wear and not for women. So you're going into a serious problem in Torah of Lesilbash Isha Kli Gever. that the lady cannot wear a garment of a man. And fourth, and most important, leggings worn on the street by the goyim, by the imas oilam, are a beged priestess. And it's a beged priestess of the worst order. And therefore, it's also minadin to wear a beged priestess of ibachakisayim lisalaychi, as it's stated in Shulchan Aruch in Hilchas Kif Ayin Ches of L'Sayich B'Chikis HaGoyim, which that means a person is forbidden to wear a priestly cloth in any manner, even though it's covered. So that's a problem of Ibachakisayim Salaychi, especially if the reason that the person wears it, even if it's only the reason deep down inside, it's to order to give her an appearance that she's wearing pants. So again, just to sum it up, if it's not covered fully, you don't have socks on top of it, so you have a problem of shoik b'isha evra. If it is, you have socks, but then most of the time you have a problem with your skirt, the length of the skirt. But if you do have the length of the skirt, you have a problem of Lasilbash Isha, Kligever, a woman should not wear a thing which resembles pants, which is a Isser D'Oraisa, because pants is meant for men and not for women. And number four, since it is a beged of pritzes, it goes into the category of Bichikisayim Lesalaychi, and which is a Osir Menatoira. So you going into really serious problems of wearing leggings. Question: what is the best way to remove the liquid from a can of tuna, provided it's being eaten right away? It's a boirer la'alter. Is it better to remove the tuna from the liquid or pour the liquid out of the can? Based on what it says in the Alter Rebbe Siddur, that what it's left in your hands, that means in the hand, that's called the duvar mizbarer. So therefore, you could pour out the oil and keep the tuna. This is a very good question. Pashtus, according to the Alter Rebbe and Siddur, and this is the way how the Divrei Nehemiah, Simchov Aleph, and the Egletal in Boirer as Gimel, and especially in his footnote number 5, learned in the Alter Rebbe, is the Alter Rebbe holds that anything which you hold in the hand and you spill out something from that, whatever stays in your hand, that's the Duvar HaMizbar, that's the Oichel. Whatever you pour out, that's the Psoilus. So according to this, B'Pashtus, the Alter Rebbe writes, you could take a can of tuna or a can of sardines, open it, and tilt the can and pour out the oil. Since you have in the hand the can of tuna or sardines, that's called the duvar hamizbar, that's called the oichel. So you're taking oichel mitoch psoilus, when you're taking the food from the garbage. So if you do oichel mitoch psoilus la'alter, to eat right away, it's not a problem. But since there are some poskim learn different pshat in the Alter Rebbe, and this is Reb Chaim Sholem B'Daitch and Harav Farkash in Shabbos Kalocha Perik Chov Beis Chsiv Chov Beis in the Long Be'iram Hay number 5, and they have a whole different pshat in the Alter Rebbe that and explains that the Alter Rebbe did not retract from his psak in Shulchan Aruch. So, and according to the pshat, you are not permitted to spill the oil from the tuna and from the sardines. So I think hamachmer tulev ulev brucha, since we are talking about of a shal of a issa daraisa, because if you are boyer pseus metach oichel, even you want to eat it la'alter right away, it's an awesome in a Torah. So since it's a daraisa gedin, it is kedai to be machmer and not to pour out the oil from the tuna and sardines. But it's kedai to note that's only in tuna or sardines which you pour out the whole oil. If you till the can and you only pour out the oil which is on top, or by sardines, most of the oil is basically on top. So that will be good according to all the poskim, because since the oil is on top and you don't take the oil between the fish, so it's not called mu'urav. It's not called that it is mixed together. So it doesn't go in b'chal to the problem of boirer. So the oil which is on top, you have no problem, the choladais, to pour out, because that's not called, it is mixed together, and it's not the problem of boirer. But the rest of the oil, since we have a machlokes apoiskim, it is kedai to be machmer, not to pour it out when you hold it in the hands. But after all, if a person does do that, he has to be soimer, because again, the Divrei Nehemiah in the Egletal and other poskim learn Pshat and Alter Rebbe that in such a way it's not a problem of boirer. Okay, thank you for joining us, and please join us again next week and send in your questions to inbox@Anash.org. Again, I want to apologize for the people who sent in questions and I didn't get yet to their answer. In the future Shirim, I will address their questions. Good night and have a wonderful week.